Hello, good evening everyone, Forristicat here. It's been a while since I put out one of these videos, so I thought, you know what, I need to sort of get on top of my things, sort of practice sort of public speaking, or speaking to myself at least. So I realized I actually have like quite a lot of topics that I want to cover, and I tried to initially cover them in sort of one of these YouTube videos, and I thought, you know what, this is not going to sort of justify all the things I want to say about these topics, so I'm going to sort of take the time and go back through the things I want to talk about and put it forward one by one. Okay, so today I want to put out my thoughts on True Detective. So it's a show which has just gotten its 5th episode aired, and the 6th episode is going to air on Monday, and it's on HBO. Now, this was shown after the Game of Thrones Season 4 trailer was shown, and I'm always sort of skeptical of sort of things shown just before an actual show gets shown, like, you know, check out this new show or whatever. But I forgot that this is actually HBO. And HBO has, you know, obviously licensed to do things other networks can't do, so I'm like, sweet. And I'm like it was just, it's like shocked me that I just sort of discounted it straight away, like, especially since it has like detective in the title, and I sort of have always been a fan of the detective genre ever since The Wire, which got me into Homicide: Life on the Street, and sort of I became really sort of really interested in the inner workings and the effects and the toll that working a case has on individual detectives. Something about that sort of attracted me towards that story type. So, but just from the fact that it was a silly thing in retrospect, you know, like, so what that they're showing this new show just after, you know, the Game of Thrones Season 4 trailer came out. Like, I still should check it out because it's HBO. So I checked it out, and luckily there was like 2 or 3 episodes already aired, so I got to binge watch a little bit there. And I paid attention to, the title sequence, and I'm like, and for me, it sounds like a silly thing, but like title sequences, I do like to like the title sequence of things, and especially like sort of ending credits and music and stuff like this. So Breaking Bad was very sort of minimalistic. Game of Thrones, of course, always gets you going to that sort of medieval type of world. But when I saw the introduction for True Detective, I was amazed at the sort of montage of images, but I did not really like the song initially. Now I fucking love it. I think it's incredible. And every time, you know, I hear those opening credits and see that those different overlays of rust and heart, and showing all the different landscapes of America and all the different sort of themes, and sort of it's almost like it's trying to give you clues as to, you know, who exactly is behind all of this. I was in. I'm really hooked through it, and I can honestly say that I have not like loved the show as much as I'm loving True Detective at the moment. So what is the story about? Well, I'm gonna have to directly quote, well, not directly quote, but the writer Nick Pizzolatto, and that's another thing that, like, why I'm not sure what the process is here, but it seems to me that this is the best way to tell a story. It seems that all this like red tape or network politics or whatever of actually getting a show pushed out there, if you've got like the same writer, the show is not drawn out. You've got a finite level of episodes, so the show doesn't ever end up spinning its wheels, especially since they're going to recast a brand new storyline for the next season, coupled with the same director, Kari Fukunaga, throughout the whole season. It's like all the things are just there in alignment to have a very consistent show which knows the direction it's going in. And that's why I like shows like that. That, you know, you can watch a scene and you know that everything is in there for a particular reason. All the references to things like, you know, the King in Yellow, or the Yellow King are in there for a reason. Basically, it's a show that treats the viewer with intelligence, and you get out of it as much as you sort of put in. So this is fantastic. I mean, seriously, like, I'm sort of beyond words at the moment. Like, the ending to episode 4, as we know, was like a 6-minute shot of Rust capturing this, you know, guy called Ginger, so he could find Reggie Ledoux, the sort of main suspect in the case. Was just incredible. And I realized, some people were like watching on YouTube were like, you know what, I didn't really realize it was one take, but after about sort of 30 seconds, I'm like, hold on a second, this director is going for a one take here. And that just really put me in the moment, and indeed that's what the director was aiming for, like, just to signify that, you know what, this is still going to have the same level of intensity and danger, even though you know that Rustin Cole does survive until 2012, given that the episode is shown in a bouncing back between 2012 interviews and 1995 and onwards, showing what has happened in these detectives' lives. Going back to what I writer said before, that it's a story of two men which are very different on the surface, but in nature may actually be more similar than what you just see at face value, and what ultimately happens when they come together and how they affect each other's lives. And the title of the show, True Detective, is interesting. I was listening to a podcast like, you know, what is a true detective? Does it mean to like question everything, question your existence, question your life? Is it like, and this is another thing I'll go into, like breaking the sort of fourth wall and like we're the true detectives as we sort of try and analyze the case sort of week to week to sort of understand what the actual show is. So yeah, we're actually part of the storyline. What is it? And I guess I don't think it's going to be until the end of this season that we'll sort of know what it is. And I'm sort of curious to see how they're going to recast it for next season, if they're going to sort of keep with the same vibe. If he totally does something different, I'll have even more respect. Like, it's not like, you know, using wash, rinse, repeat. He's actually going to try something new and actually do something fresh, and he sort of shows that this writer is going to be confident enough that he can go in different directions and still have that really interesting storyline. So about the Yellow King, it's really it's interesting. It's really interesting. So this reference to this Yellow King, and for those who don't know, although if you're into the show as much as I am, you probably already know about it, but yes, it's about this book written by, I think, Richard Chamberlain in like like the late 1800s, I believe, or maybe like early 1900s. And it's a series of like short stories in this book that allude to this play called The Yellow King, and whoever reads this play goes crazy. And it's sort of, it's a little bit of a mind fuck, because as I was sort of reading this, and then like reading like all the references to the play, and how other writers throughout time have sort of added to the mythology of this Yellow King play, and how sort of, you know, people go crazy after they read this play. And then after you've been like reading all the sort of different connections between this and the actual yellow play, and then the thing is like you're reading like a story about a story which is linked to the True Detective story, and then this whole element there of sort of breaking the fourth wall sort of thing, and it almost feels like, you know, you're actually going crazy yourself. Now that's not to say that, you know, I'm insane. Of course I'm not insane, but it's a very interesting element that this writer is bringing into the mix. And there was this Reddit post that pretty much summarized what I believe to be true, and that is that you know, Rustin Cole really does, he's obviously very sort of pessimistic, he's very sort of world weary, whereas Hart, he's trying to sort of be hopeful, and like he's religious. Rustin is obviously anti-religious. But where was I going with this? He mentions quotes which I think a lot of people think, but they don't really say, and this writer was just gunning for it. Like he just said everything, and like people were just saying, you know what, that's one of the sort of brutal truths that I've been thinking about for a while, and this show sort of nailed it entirely. And indeed, like, and I think what's his name, Woody Harrelson's character Martin Hart jokes like, you know, Mr. Charisma or whatever. But the thing is, like, there's something intoxicating about this Rustin Cole character. And I just watched an interview with Matthew McConaughey, how he just like read 2 scripts of this TV show, episode 1, episode 2, and he's like, that guy there, Rustin Cole, I'm in. And for that sort of actor to have the confidence that he can pull off such a role is going to mean that he found these, as long as the actor is an idiot, he found the script attractive, he knows he can pull off the character, and indeed everyone's saying that, I haven't really been following Matthew McConaughey, but everyone's saying that, you know, this is his best work to date. And it's really, I mean, this is just one of those things where you got the 3 tiers of a quality piece of film: storytelling, characters, and emotion. And our emotions are being fucked with a lot. And I've got a friend that recently wrote a book, and he said that, yeah, like with storytelling, you want to sort of mess with people's heads a little bit, pull the rug underneath from them every once in a while, and just keep things interesting, but never time, you know, never like insulting the viewer's intelligence. And I bring up this example multiple times, whereas Dexter is like, well, I'm not really sure if people are understanding the plot here. So what we'll do is we'll have this character, this ghost Obi-Wan character of his father sort of, saying, what about this, what about that, and, just having Dexter's voiceover, not really allowing us to make the sort of connections that, an intelligent viewer can make. And another show that does that is House of Cards, which is the political sort of machinations that Kevin Spacey's character does in order to get to the White House, and ultimately he's aiming for a presidential role. So I like TV shows that do that, that it's like, you know what, you want a good piece of fandom, it's going to be much more rewarding if we put the pieces on the table and you work out things for yourself. And this is something which is happening with True Detective. Anyway, back to the Reddit post. This person said, Rustin Cole's character always talks about, not always talks about, but there's a quote in there where he says that time is a flat circle, and then we've got Reggie Ledoux saying, this will happen over and over again. And then he mentions Carcosa, which is the lost city, which is in the play, The King in Yellow. And he mentions that, history repeats itself. And then Rustin Cole, in the interview, he mentions that there's this sort of, what does he call it, is it chaos theory or string theory? Maybe something to do with memories or something. Basically this physics theory that there's this other sort of dimension where people are sort of looking down on things as a sort of separate observer position sort of thing. And this post on Reddit said that, he's basically saying that it's basically like a meta commentary on the show itself. So it's like we've become characters in the TV show. Rustin Cole mentions the sort of narrative, and it's like us watching the story and understanding the story is a part of the True Detective story in and of itself. So, it's like history repeats itself. He's referencing the viewer who may actually, get this series through whatever means or buy it on DVD and watch it again and again and again. And I really think that he's going for one of those things that when you actually once we get to the final episode, and he said that all the sort of pieces are there in the first episode, he's not aiming to trick the viewer and be like, haha, I outsmarted you, you're sort of smart, I'm smarter than you or whatever. And especially when watching the title sequence and just getting the whole vibe, and indeed in this interview I just watched, Matthew McConaughey's you can actually taste the city. It's so visceral that we'll have a very complete package of something which has broken the fourth wall, which hasn't been done, as far as I know, maybe a couple of times, in terms of involving us as one of the main characters in the story. And like I said, there's just too many references to you bend the narrative to support the evidence, or time is a flat circle, or this will happen again and again and again. And there's going to be something there that the narrative of the story is like a self-reference to us viewing this story, and the way that we are viewing this story is going to mirror the way Rustin Cole has been, and Martin Hart have been telling or recounting this story of Dora Lang and how she's gotten murdered. So it's all working together very nicely. I'm very happy with it. I didn't go into too many details of this video regarding the storyline, purely because, you guys are probably into it. If you're not into it, it's about two detectives in Louisiana, and like I mentioned, what happens when they sort of come together. It goes into police work a little bit. There's some action there, but it's mainly a character study, and it's a very sort of interesting, psychological, sort of really depressing tale that is written, acted, and directed fantastically by Woody Harrelson, Matthew McConaughey, written by Nick Pizzolatto, and directed by Cary Fukunaga. And when I'm seeing all these videos of Nick Pizzolatto talking on behind the scenes and inside the episodes, he's very confident, he's very sure of himself. So I know that he's going to land the plane correctly, unless he does something stupid, which I really doubt he will. I reckon that I'm going to have a sort of another contender for one of my favorite TV shows of all time, which of course a lot needs to happen for The Wire to be knocked off that first place. So I'm just glad of this video. I'll get back in the swing of things. I want to be talking about some other topics. What do I want to be talking about? Beyond Two Souls, PlayStation 4, Justified, and the 24 teaser. So this is the first one out of the way. True Detective, hope I got my points across. Very interesting meta sort of reference to itself, allowing the viewer to actually become part of the story. Just a very fantastic show. Watch this show. Watch this show. Alright. Goodbye, detectives. See you later.